Hello there.
Welcome back to another segment in my mini-series, Writing Cliches to Avoid. Thanks for joining me again, my creatively handicapped friends. It's not an insult, by the way. I think most writers can say that they are a bit, just a teensy bit, creatively challenged. Writing Cliches to Avoid is a video series I'm doing. 1 second, my cat is destroying my bedroom. Writing Cliches to Avoid is a video series I'm doing where basically I take a look at a few different genres, video to video, and we talk about some of the cliches that have been consistently and exhaustedly used in those genres, and then not only will I point them out, but I'll also provide some fixes, so to speak. Last time we did fantasy, and this time we are doing romance. Roll the intro. Today I'll be pointing out 5 cliches that can be found in romance, and keep in mind this isn't just romance books, but romance in books as well. So technically some of these cliches could apply to almost any type of book if it involves romance. Now, I want to take a moment to seriously address something when it comes to cliches in romance, and it's a certain cliche that I will not be talking about in this video. If you don't already know about this, there's not much more that can be said on this. Avoid it or use it. I haven't already said a million times. There's not much hope for you, son. But with that disclaimer out of the way, let's get straight into it. Number 1 cliche that I want to talk to you about, and the number 1 fix that we're going to be going through is... I call it the shy girl, party girl, bad boy. This is a cliche that I'm sure you haven't just seen in books, but you've probably seen in a shit ton of movies as well, and that is the main character is a shy or awkward or socially anxious, just plain girl. Her best friend is a party girl that is obsessed with sex and with living wild and free and not taking responsibility for your actions, and basically the friend is the most extreme example of a social opposite to the main character. Like, there's not much reason they would be friends to begin with, but yeah. And then of course to lump something else in with that is the bad boy, the guy who isn't just a rebel or a punk who
doesn't give a shit about nothing,
but he also dresses like it, usually wearing, all black, only wears leather jackets, that sort of thing. You already know where I'm going with that one. It's it's been done to death. I probably don't even need to point out to you why that cliche would seem overused or boring at this point. I mean, for the most part, it's just somewhat unrealistic in the social extremities involved. And the good girl or shy, anxious girl fixing the bad boy trope is just... I won't say much more on that because I'm confident that you already know exactly what I'm talking about and the reasons why that cliche isn't just badly used as a cliche, but badly used as a story device in general. But I have a fix for it, and the fix is actually quite easy. It would just be to, rather than having one best friend who is the social opposite of the main character, maybe have like 2 or 3 friends and space out the traits among them. Make them a bit more complex and 3-dimensional, You want to not just have a character who is the polar opposite to create certain conflicts and get the main character out of their comfort zone. You want that responsibility to be shared over a couple of people. And as for the bad boy, you can still have an adventurous or rebellious guy without him having to dress like Ozzy Osbourne, I actually think it would be a lot more endearing for a story, especially a romance or a contemporary, if it was a boy who looks to be your standard everyday kind of guy, but is secretly, a badass. Readers like a surprise, give them that. You know what, I might button this up, I'm feeling a bit douchey. So next up is another cliche that I can add to the growing list of cliches that I've used in my writing and that I'm working to improve on, and that is the perfect guy/girl. It's the romantic interest of the main character that doesn't seem to have any flaws, physically and personality-wise, and anytime they are described, whether it be just for a physical description or for some character development, they are described as being the perfect embodiment of what a human should be. There's a number of reasons this is bad. Number 1 is just because aside from it being overused, it's also extremely unrelatable. So it's a human condition that we find flaws within ourselves. We're just really not very confident beings. We're too self-aware for the most part. And when we read about a character described as being perfect, we can't really put ourselves in their shoes, can we? Because not many people would describe themselves as perfect. I mean, shit, I'm damn close, but I'm just not quite there yet. Not quite there. God, I hate myself. And aside from that, it's not very endearing for the main character to be attracted to that person, because if they're described as being perfect, then of course they like that person. Who wouldn't? That takes me on to the fix, and I think I have a pretty good one for this. I would say that point out some, obviously, if it's the start of the story, you want to start with just pointing out a few physical flaws. And when I say point out a physical flaw, it could be something like, well, actually it depends, because if you're describing it from the point of the main character, they may see something that's unattractive that most other people wouldn't. Like, for example, freckles. One of my friends doesn't like girls with freckles, that he just finds that unattractive. So the main character could, for example, see that this girl has freckles, find that somewhat unattractive, but like her anyway. And that's a lot more endearing than just being attracted to the perfect girl, and vice versa. By the way, sorry to anyone out there with freckles. I personally think it's sexy as shit, so I don't know, it's okay to have the main character annoyed or unattracted to certain aspects of their love interest, because that's normal. Everyone experiences that. Almost anyone would be hard-pressed to say that they haven't had a girlfriend or a boyfriend that has had things physically and personality-wise that they've been unattracted to. Number 3 is the ticking clock. This one comes in a few separate forms, a few separate ways. The ones you'll most commonly see is they either have to leave to go a very great distance soon. Usually it's if they're leaving for the military, or they're moving away for a college or a job or something like that. Or, on the flip side of that, they're sick and they're going to die soon. Now, the illness one has a bit more leniency, because usually if one of the main characters is terminally ill, that has a large part to do with the actual story itself. But if it's just used as a plot device, and usually traveling for work or whatever is used only as a plot device to create some kind of urgency for the relationship, then I don't know, this isn't necessarily a bad thing. Urgency is good in stories, but it has been overused, so it's time to explore some other options. And when you really break it down, creating the sense of urgency is really just about having a barrier between their relationship having a future, and there's plenty of other ways to do that without the ticking clock. If I was to recommend any kind of fix or any kind of solution to this, I would say have something come up suddenly that creates that barrier for their future. Something that the reader won't see coming, something that's not explained from the start of the story, like they have to leave to go back to the military soon. Just have something pop up maybe midway to towards the end of the story when everything seems perfect and seems like they're going to be together forever. Something comes up that puts a wedge in that. Like maybe the guy accidentally gets involved in something that creates a potential for him to go to jail for the rest of his life or something like that. I don't know. It doesn't have to be a large part of the story itself, you just need that barrier. Number 4 is the crazy ex, and this has been done for both guys and girls. It's the ex that is still obsessed with the love interest, usually not the main character, just the love interest. They're still obsessed with them. This basically makes them the antagonist for the main character. It makes them the villain. It's pretty obvious why this trope is a trope and why it's used so much, and that's because it's giving the barrier I just mentioned a face. Rather than just having some external force that could stop them from being together, it's an actual person. It's someone who is physically and sentiently, is sentiently a word? Someone sentient that is creating an obstacle for them, and that's scarier than a situation like, well, I probably won't say being terminally ill, that's pretty fucking scary, but different to, having to move overseas for a job, because that's something you can try to work around. With a person, you don't know what they're going to do. They're unpredictable, and that's why this is used. This is why it's a trope, and I get it. But it's also super tacky. It's very, very tacky reading about an ex. It's tacky reading about an ex that is just obsessed with the love interest to the point where they would kill for them, and they would do all this shit that a normal person just wouldn't do. And if the crazy ex isn't the focus of the whole story, it's just a weird thing to put in on the side as a barrier. It's unrealistic, and I don't know, to me it feels like a kind of tacky attempt at putting some thriller or horror element into an otherwise, I don't know, into a story that's just not those things. As a fix to this, I would normally just say, just don't do that. If you have to mention the X, just have them as a normal person. I know, that's really it. Or if you have to do something like that, how about, okay, how about this? Instead of a crazy X, how about the X's family is crazy? Like, they loved their daughter's boyfriend, and then the daughter's boyfriend left, and they're not happy about it. The dad doesn't have anyone to talk to about cricket anymore, and it's a fucking disgrace. They want him back, and they're gonna get him back. They gonna get him. I don't know. Give it a try. Anyway, that's 4 of them. I have one more for you, but this one's just, it's not really a cliche with the writing, it's just something that I've noticed happens quite a lot, and there's actually a few memes about it, and that is the same kind of cover. For romance, it always seems to be either 2 white people nearly kissing, or it's a lady clinging to a shirtless man. And these book covers, especially the latter that I mentioned, is the clickbait of books. It may do well, and it may sell well, but it's pretty tacky. Just like with YouTube, if a video has a clickbaity thumbnail, it's gonna get a lot of activity, but people are gonna be talking about it saying, yeah, that was clickbait. And that's what I see these book covers as, clickbait. So, I don't know, just don't. The fix for that one's easy, just, explore a bit more creatively. Look at some book covers from maybe different genres or something. Look at some book covers that still represent what your story is about, but maybe looks like it had a bit more than 5 seconds of thought put into it. Anyway, guys, that's it. That's the romance episode of Writing Cliches to Avoid. I hope you have gotten something out of this video. I hope it has helped you in some small way. Romance is one of the most heavily criticized things in books. It's something that I struggled with in my books, and I think clearly shows in my books. It's been, especially the perfect guy-girl thing, I did that terribly in my first 2 books, and because of that, I'm trying to counteract that in the 3rd book in a massive way, and I feel like I'm doing a good job with that. But the point here is that when it comes to romance, it is going to be criticized one way or another, so you just want to make sure you're putting an original edge on it. You want people to read your romance and say, wow, I haven't really read anything like that before. I mean, that's kind of a rare thing to happen, but aim high. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Make sure you subscribe to see the next episode in this, which will be the genre of, I don't know, actually, maybe leave a comment. Let me know what you want to see Writing Cliches to Avoid video on. If you want to, do the thing, and I would really appreciate it if you followed me on the thing. Thanks again for watching, guys. Catch ya.